Lieutenant Daniel Reeves adjusted the strap of his uniform as the shuttle hummed quietly through the vast emptiness of space. The stars outside the viewport were cold and distant, but the planet they were approaching was alive with color. A swirling orb of greens and blues, dotted with cities that shimmered like liquid glass. It was the capital world of the Varelian Empire, a civilization humans had barely glimpsed before. They were known for their beauty, their strange laws, and their strict codes of etiquette. To Daniel, it all seemed like stepping into another universe entirely. He had joined the human expedition as a junior officer, responsible for logistics and minor communications, yet he could feel the weight of this mission pressing on him. Every step he took, every word he spoke, could change the fragile relationship between humanity and the Varelians. He had trained for combat, for strategy, for survival, but diplomacy was a different kind of battlefield. Lieutenant, focus. A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Ambassador Riley, standing near the shuttle's doorway, his silver hair glowing faintly under the interior lights. Remember, we are guests. Follow my lead and try not to do anything reckless. Daniel nodded, trying to hide the excitement that made his stomach twist. It wasn't just any diplomatic mission. It was humanity's first real contact with royalty of another species. They were about to meet the Varelian Empress and her daughter, Princess Lysera, the figurehead of their civilization's hopes and traditions. Daniel had heard stories of the princess, how her intelligence and courage were unmatched among her people, how she carried herself with grace that seemed almost supernatural. And now he was about to meet her in person. The shuttle's engines hummed lower as they entered orbit, and Daniel could see the capital city sprawling across the planet's surface, its towers spiraling into the sky, reflecting light and colors humans had no words for. The docking procedure was precise, almost ritualistic. With automated arms guiding them into place, inside the spaceport, the humans were led through a labyrinth of corridors. Varelian guards in gleaming armor moved with silent efficiency. There, elongated forms bending light strangely. Daniel noticed the intricate symbols etched into their uniforms, something he couldn't understand, but instinctively respected. The air smelled faintly sweet, like blooming flowers and warm metal, a scent that seemed to settle uncomfortably in his lungs. Finally, they reached the grand hall where the audience with the royal family was to take place. The room was immense, with ceilings that disappeared into soft golden light. Walls shimmered with holographic images of past rulers, each figure frozen mid-action in history, their faces stern yet regal. At the far end of the hall, on a raised platform, sat the Empress herself, surrounded by advisors who whispered quietly among themselves. Daniel's pulse quickened. This was it. Humanity's first real impression of the Varelians would hinge. On the next few minutes, the doors at the opposite end of the hall slid open with a smooth hiss, and all movement stopped. From the opening stepped Princess Lysera. She moved like she had been painted into existence, her form delicate yet commanding. Her silver-blue skin glimmered under the hall's light. Her eyes, larger than human norms allowed, seemed to see everything at once. Daniel felt the world slow, and then she stopped, mid-step, as though her feet had been frozen to the floor. Her eyes locked onto him, wide and unblinking. The whispers of the court fell silent. Even the Empress tilted her head, frowning. Daniel's first instinct was confusion. Was he doing something wrong? No. He hadn't even approached her yet. But he could feel her gaze like a physical weight pressing against him, intense and unyielding. His throat went dry. The shuttle of thoughts in his mind training protocol. Diplomacy collapsed under the impossible reality of her reaction. Ambassador Riley stepped forward quickly. "Princess Lysera," he said, voice calm but firm. "This is Lieutenant Daniel Reeves. He is a guest." The princess did not respond. She simply stared, her expression unreadable, yet filled with something Daniel could not name. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, her entire posture shifted. Her hands pressed lightly against her chest, and a faint trembling ran through her frame. She backed away slowly, as though trying to distance herself from a memory too vivid to bear. The silence became unbearable. Daniel swallowed, unsure whether to speak or move. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to remain still. The court, sensing the tension, remained frozen. Whispers erupted like a wave, soft and anxious, but none dared challenge the moment. Finally, the Empress spoke, her voice echoing in the immense hall. "That will be enough for today. Escort our guest from the chamber." Daniel felt a mix of relief and frustration as he followed the Varelian guards out of the grand hall. The princess had not spoken a single word, not a greeting, not a smile, not even an acknowledgement beyond that frozen stare. Later, aboard the shuttle returning to their quarters, Daniel tried to make sense of it. "Did she know me?" he asked quietly to the ambassador. Riley's eyes darkened. "You have been noticed, Lieutenant. That is rarely a simple thing among the Varelians. Whatever you did, whoever you are, they've recognized it. It is best you do not ask questions. At least not yet." Daniel's mind raced. He had no memory of ever meeting the princess. She was not some secret agent from a hidden past. He was a human officer, born and trained on Earth. And yet, the intensity of her reaction suggested something far beyond mere curiosity or surprise. That night, sleep eluded him. He stared at the stars through the shuttle's viewport, trying to calm the storm of thoughts in his head. Every scenario he could imagine seemed insufficient. How could someone, anyone, freeze like that at the sight of a stranger? The next day, small incidents began to unsettle him. An unmarked shuttle appeared on their sensors, trailing the ardent dawn silently. Encrypted messages pinged intermittently on his personal messages he couldn't decode. And in the corridors, outside his quarters, shadows moved in ways that suggested they were not entirely human. Then, near the edge of sleep, he felt a presence in his room. A whisper of motion, almost a dream, and there she was, Princess Lysera, appearing as if conjured from the shadows. Her eyes held a mixture of fear, wonder, something else he could not place. "You look exactly like the man who saved my life." "Before I was born," she said, her voice barely audible. Then, as quickly as she had come, she was gone, leaving only the faint scent of flowers in the room and a human heart pounding with more questions than answers. Daniel could not rest. He could not focus. And deep down, he realized that this encounter was only the beginning. Something about him had reached across centuries, across the boundaries of human and Varelian alike. And whatever it was, it had only just begun to stir. Stars outside continued their silent march, indifferent to the mysteries they had witnessed. Yet Daniel Reeves felt the weight of something larger, something inevitable, pressing down on him. Humanity had arrived at the doorstep of a civilization, older and stranger than anything he could comprehend, and somehow, he was at the center of it all. The next morning, Lieutenant Daniel Reeves woke to the hum of the ship's engines, but his mind refused to quiet. Princess Lysera's words, the frozen look in her eyes, the strange presence that had slipped from his quarters the night before, all replayed in endless loops. He tried to tell himself it was a coincidence, a trick of memory and imagination, but something deep inside insisted it was not. Breakfast in the crew's mess was tense. Daniel picked at the food mechanically, eyes scanning the room. The Varelian guards who had escorted them yesterday seemed to be everywhere, yet always at a respectful distance. Their movements were smooth, careful, and Daniel felt that they watched him constantly, waiting for any wrong action. Every time he looked up, the shadows of the hallways seemed to twist just a little, hiding something or someone. Lieutenant Ambassador Riley said, sitting across from him. The older man's face was lined with worry, more than Daniel had. "Noticed the day before. You must understand. You have been noticed in ways that are delicate. The princess is not like other beings you've met. Her reaction is tied to something old, something her people have kept hidden for centuries. You should prepare yourself for scrutiny, and perhaps for danger." Daniel frowned. "Danger? I don't understand." "I didn't do anything," Riley sighed. "It is not about what you did. It is about what you are, or at least what you represent. The Varelians have memories that stretch beyond what humans can conceive. They recognize patterns, echoes of people, even across generations. That reaction you saw, it was not normal surprise. It was recognition, and recognition can be as dangerous as a threat in their culture. Daniel's mind refused to process the explanation. Recognition across generations? That was impossible. He was just a human, born and raised on Earth, like any other, and yet he could not shake the feeling that some hidden thread tied him to this civilization in ways he did not understand. The day passed slowly. The humans were given access to limited areas of the capital under tight supervision. Daniel tried to maintain focus on his tasks, documenting planetary data, running system checks, and noting Varelian protocols. Yet every corridor, every glance from a Varelian guard, reminded him of Princess Lysera's frozen stare. It haunted him, more than any ghost or memory he had ever known. As evening fell, a shadow approached his quarters once again. It's time. There was no hesitation, no whisper of doubt. The door slid open silently, and the princess entered. "You cannot ignore what you are," she said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "And I cannot ignore you. Not anymore." Daniel froze. You're real. You weren't dreaming." Lysera shook her head. "I am real, and you are real. That is why I must speak quickly. There is something about you, something ancient. I cannot explain it fully, but you carry a reflection of someone who once saved my people. Before I was born, before this empire even existed in its current form, someone like you was here. And now you are here again." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "Saved your people? How? Who? I don't understand any of this." She hesitated, as though struggling with the right words. "There are records, hidden records, that even my mother has forbidden most to see, but they speak of a human, a protector. During a war that no one now remembers, someone from your species led our ancestors to safety. You are the image of that person, not in soul perhaps, but in appearance, in destiny. That is why I stopped when I saw you. That is why I could not speak." Daniel shook his head. "It doesn't make sense. I'm not anyone special. I'm just me." Lysera stepped closer. "Sometimes the universe chooses what it wants, not what we want. That is why you are here. You cannot ignore this connection, Daniel Reeves. You cannot walk away." Before he could ask more, a soft alarm sounded. The princess's eyes widened. "You must hide. There are watchers. They already suspect something. If the wrong eyes see you speaking to me, the consequences will be severe." Daniel's mind raced. Watchers? Who is watching us? The Empress Lysera whispered, and those loyal to her who feared the return of the protector.
They
"Will not understand your innocence. They will only see a threat." With that, she vanished into the shadows of the corridor, leaving Daniel alone with the pounding of his own heart. He could not ignore it any longer. The ordinary mission he had signed up for, the routine protocols and peaceful diplomacy, had shifted into something unrecognizable. There was history here he could not remember, a history that somehow reached into him, memory that was not his own but shaped him anyway. Later that night, Daniel accessed the ship's archives, attempting to find any historical records or mentions of Varelian legends involving humans. Most of the files were heavily encrypted, restricted by diplomatic protocols. Yet in the fragments he managed to access, he saw glimpses of strange figures, humans, armored, leading alien forces, holding back disasters that should have destroyed entire planets. And the faces, though blurred by centuries, seemed familiar. Days passed, and the tension only grew. The humans were treated with courtesy, but watched constantly. Every meeting, every public appearance felt like walking on a wire stretched over a canyon. The other crew members noticed his distraction, but no one dared ask questions. Only the ambassador seemed aware of the growing storm around Daniel, and his advice remained consistent. Stay calm, follow instructions, and do not provoke the VIRLs. One evening, a small shuttle approached without warning. It hovered silently outside their docking bay, unmarked and unmoving. The crew scanned it repeatedly, but could not identify its origin. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Whoever or whatever was in that shuttle was waiting. In the quiet hours, the presence returned. Lysera appeared once more, moving through the corridors like a shadow, unseen by the guards. You must prepare, she said, urgency sharp in her voice. They will test you. They will try to decide if you are friend or a threat. And you must show them what you are, not just a human, but something more. Something they cannot ignore. Daniel nodded, though he did not fully understand. Prepare for what? She looked at him with an intensity that made him catch his breath, for the moment when history recognizes itself. When your choices matter not just for you, but for all of us. The next day brought more warnings. A high-ranking Varelian guard approached Daniel in the mess hall. Lieutenant Reeves, you are advised to remain in your quarters until summoned. Your presence draws attention that the Empress does not approve. Daniel understood then that he was no longer a guest. He was a figure of interest, a catalyst in a story that had begun long before his birth. Every step he took, every glance he made, was being measured against centuries of history and expectation. He spent the hours confined to his quarters, reflecting on the princess's words. Who had this ancient human been? Why did he resemble that person? And most importantly, what would happen when the Watchers decided whether he was a savior or a threat? Late that night, unable to sleep, Daniel returned to the viewport. The planet below glowed with life, shimmering cities stretching across continents, rivers of light tracing paths of alien civilization. He realized that for all the wonder he could see, for all the beauty of this world, he was alone in the questions that mattered most. And yet, despite fear and confusion, there was a spark within him, a spark that told him he could rise to whatever challenge this civilization demanded. He might be human, fragile in ways the Varelians would never understand. But he carried with him ingenuity, courage, and determination, the qualities that had defined his species since the first time humans looked at the stars and decided to reach for them. Somewhere deep within, Daniel Reeves knew that his journey had only begun. The princess had shown him a glimpse of the past, and the Watchers had shown him the weight of the present. The future, uncertain and vast, waited for him to act, and he would. Daniel Reeves could not ignore the sense of urgency building around him. Every corridor he walked felt heavier, every glance from a Varelian guard sharper. Princess Lazara's warning echoed in his mind. They will test you. They will try to decide if you are a friend or a threat. He had to know more. He had to understand why she had reacted to him as if he were someone from the past. That evening, when the crew had been given leave in their quarters, Daniel slipped from the assigned areas. He moved with caution, hugging the shadows of the empty corridors. The Varelians were precise, disciplined, and almost invisible when they patrolled. Yet he noticed the pattern in their steps, the rhythm of their movements, and found small gaps in their observation. He was human, yes, but humans had an advantage too: creativity. His destination was a place the princess had hinted at, the Celestial Archive. It was a repository of the Empire's deepest secrets, records from centuries before even the current Empress had been born. Access was strictly forbidden to outsiders, but Daniel knew that if he could just see the records, he might uncover why Lysera had reacted to him so strongly. The doors of the archive were enormous, carved from shimmering metal and etched with symbols that seemed to move when he looked at them. Daniel paused, considering the impossible task ahead. A single wrong move would not only get him expelled, could mark him as a threat. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that humans had survived impossible situations before. Courage and ingenuity were his tools. He found a maintenance hatch at the edge of the facility, just wide enough to slip through. The sensors flickered as he passed, but a misalignment in their programming allowed him through undetected. Inside, the archive was vast and silent. Towering shelves stretched beyond the light, filled with scrolls, holographic data crystals, and strange devices that hummed with information. Daniel's breath caught. He had imagined libraries, but this was a vault of history unlike anything he had ever seen. Using a portable translator and his knowledge of alien technology, he began to search. It took hours, moving quietly and carefully until he found a sealed, holographic chamber labeled Guarded Records, Pre-Founding Conflicts. He hesitated, the weight of what he might find pressing on him. Then he activated the chamber. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a battlefield. Ships moved in formation above a devastated planet. Below, figures ran between shelters and crumbling buildings, directing the evacuations. Then he saw him a human, in primitive armor compared to current standards, giving orders with authority that Daniel had never known anyone could wield. The resemblance was impossible. Every movement, every gesture was mirrored in his own body. Daniel's hands trembled. Could it be him? Could he somehow be connected to this figure? The hologram played on, showing the human fighting alongside, Varelian soldiers leading them to safety as their world burned. The historian's voice, barely audible, confirmed what his eyes could already see. This human is our protector. No one else has the courage, the wisdom, or the will to lead us in this hour. The legacy will return when it is needed most. A chill ran down Daniel's spine. Legacy. He had never considered himself a hero. He had survived training, faced danger, but he had never led anyone. He was a junior officer, not a figure of history. And yet, the Varelians had preserved every detail of this human's actions. He looked like him. He moved like him. Being called back as if time had folded over itself. Suddenly, the lights in the archive shifted. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Someone was coming. He ducked behind a shelf, holding his breath. Through the dim light, he saw a Varelian guard move silently among the shelves, their sensors scanning. Daniel realized he had little time. He needed to capture evidence quickly. Using a portable data crystal, he recorded the hologram. The images, though heavy with alien encoding, showed enough detail to prove the human soldier's identity. Daniel secured the crystal and prepared to leave, retracing his steps through the maintenance hatch. The guard had not yet noticed him. Back. In the shadows of the corridor, Daniel allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. But the weight of what he had learned pressed on him. He was not just a human in a strange civilization. He was a reflection of someone who had shaped the course of their history, someone whose actions had saved millions of lives. And now, somehow, he had been placed back in their world. The days that followed were tense. Daniel avoided public appearances. Yet rumors began to circulate among the humans on the mission. Whispers of why the princess had stopped. Hints of hidden knowledge in the celestial archive. Daniel knew he could not share the truth yet. Even Lysera could not explain fully why he had returned. It was a puzzle with pieces missing, and the wrong move could endanger everyone. Then came the moment that changed everything. During a private meeting with Ambassador Riley, a communication came through a coded message in a form Daniel had never seen. Lysera's voice came through, urgent and quiet. They know you accessed the records. You must prepare. The Empress will summon you soon. Do not resist, but do not lie. Show them who you are. Daniel's heart raced. The Empress, the one who had ordered their departure, now sought him. She would know he had broken the rules. He had no illusions about what could happen. Expulsion, imprisonment, or worse. Yet, in the depths of his mind, he knew he could not deny the truth. He could not hide from the legacy that had returned with him. The summons arrived at dawn. Followed the guards through the shining halls of the palace, every step echoing against the polished floors. At the end of the path stood the throne room, vast and intimidating, filled with the golden light of the early sun. The Empress sat at her elevated throne, her expression calm but unreadable. Princess Lysera stood beside her, her eyes focused on Daniel with a mixture of hope and fear. Lieutenant Reeves, the Empress began, her voice deep and commanding. You have been observed. Reports indicate that you have accessed areas forbidden. To humans, explain yourself. Daniel swallowed. I wanted to understand. The Princess Shay reacted to me. I needed to know why. I did not mean disrespect. The Empress's gaze sharpened. Intent is irrelevant. The act itself carries consequences. Tell me, human, why do you resemble the Protector? Daniel's mouth went dry. He could not explain fully. I don't know. I am who I am, but I saw the records. I saw him whoever he wasn't. I I understand why the princess reacted. Lysera stepped forward. Mother, he is not a threat. He is a reflection of the one who saved us before. He is meant to be here now. The Empress's eyes narrowed. Prophecies and legends are not proof. I will not risk my people on assumptions. You will remain under guard until I decide your fate. Daniel's heart sank, but he noticed something in Lysera's expression: determination. She did not accept the Empress's words as final. There was a fire in her eyes, the same fire that had caused her to freeze at the sight of him in the first place. For the next hours, Daniel remained confined, thinking about the soldier and the hologram. He imagined the courage it must have taken to lead a people through devastation, to act when all seemed lost. Could he do the same? Could he rise to meet expectations placed upon him by a civilization whose language, customs, and history were alien? When the door opened again, it was Lysera who entered, alone this time. You have a choice, she said quietly. You can remain passive and let them decide your fate, or you can act. They fear you because they sense the legacy, but they do not understand it. Show them who you are. Lead them as he once did. Daniel felt the weight of her words pressing into his chest. Leadership, responsibility, courage. Humans had always adapted, found solutions where none seemed possible. And now he had a chance to do the same. He would not hide, would not run, would face the unknown as humans always had. Hours later, as the sun set over the alien capital, Daniel Reeves made his decision. He would uncover the full truth of the Protector. He would understand the legacy he carried. And he would prepare not just for judgment, but for the moment when his actions could decide the fate of an entire civilization. In the darkness of his quarters, Daniel stared at the stars once more. They were vast and different and infinite, but they had witnessed human courage before. And now they would witness it again. The summons came early. Daniel Reeves had spent a restless night thinking about the holograms, the records, and the words of Princess Lysera. His thoughts had circled endlessly. Could he really embody the Protector? Could he live up to a legacy he had not earned? Questions gnawed at him, but there was no time to dwell on doubts. The Varelian Empress had requested his presence, and the weight of centuries of history waited for him beyond those doors. He walked through the polished corridors of the palace, flanked by guards whose armor gleamed like liquid metal. Each step echoed through the hallways, each echo reinforcing the sense of gravity that hung in the air. The palace felt larger than life, the ceilings soaring high above. Golden light spilling over walls etched with symbols of a civilization older than humans could imagine. Daniel kept his gaze forward, though his mind raced. Every Varelian he passed seemed to be calculating, assessing him, trying to determine if he was a threat or a savior. The throne room doors opened, and Daniel entered. The Empress sat on her elevated seat, calm but formidable. Princess Lysera stood beside her, her posture straight, her eyes fixed on him with unwavering intensity. The court was filled with high-ranking advisors, each one silent, their expressions unreadable. Daniel could feel the weight of their scrutiny pressing down on him. You have come, the Empress began, her voice deep and controlled. Have been observed, Lieutenant Reeves. We have seen your actions, your curiosity, and your intrusion into areas forbidden to humans. Do you understand the gravity of your deeds? Daniel nodded, keeping his voice steady. Yes, Your Majesty. I only sought to understand why the princess reacted to me the way she did. I meant no disrespect, and I did not intend to break any laws. The Empress's eyes narrowed, sharp as blades. Intent matters little. The act itself is recorded. Humans are unpredictable. They act without foresight, yet they carry consequences. Far beyond their comprehension, you resemble the Protector, but resemblance alone does not grant wisdom or judgment. Tell me, human, why? Should we trust you? Daniel took a breath. He thought of Lysera, of the holographic records, of the courage. It had taken a human to save a civilization long ago. Because humans have survived against impossible odds before. Because even when we are small, fragile, or outnumbered, we find solutions where others see only danger. I do not know if I am the Protector, but I know I will do everything I can. To help your people, I will not run. I will not hide. I will act. A murmur passed through the court. The Empress studied him, unblinking. Courage is not proof. Leadership is not proof. You will be tested. The choice to act will be forced upon you sooner than you expect. And when that moment comes, failure is not an option. Daniel felt the gravity of her words, but he also felt a strange clarity. Humans he had studied in history, the ancestors who had faced unimaginable dangers, had acted with courage in the same way. He would do the same. He had no choice. Later that day, intelligence reports came in. The sensors had detected a hostile fleet approaching Varelian space at an alarming speed. Their ships were vast, armed with weapons capable of devastating entire cities. The Varelian military, though strong, was unprepared for this level of aggression. Panic rippled through the ranks, though it was carefully controlled by protocol. In order, Daniel watched the holographic display of the incoming fleet.
All the ships moved with precision, coordinated and relentless. The Variants had never faced such a force before, and their traditional strategies might not hold.
Oh, Princess.
Lysera approached him, her expression tense but determined. They are coming faster than anyone predicted. My people have strength, but your perspective, your approach, may make the difference. Daniel nodded. I will help. I may not know all your tactics, but I can adapt. I can find ways to use what you have more effectively. In the hours that followed, Daniel worked with the Varelian generals. First, they were skeptical, hesitant to accept a human's input. But as he demonstrated small tactical maneuvers, adapting traditional formations into flexible strategies, he gained their attention. His methods were unconventional for the Varelians. Reployments, redeployments. Unexpected flanking, and creative use of their energy shields. Slowly, they began to see the logic in his suggestions. Princess Lysera remained at his side, learning quickly, her insights complementing his own. Together, they revised the fleet's approach, preparing for the first contact with the invaders. Daniel could feel the tension in the air, the anticipation building as the moment of confrontation drew near. When the fleet finally emerged from hyperspace, the Varelian and human forces were ready. The invaders were massive, their ships bristling with weapons, their movements swift and coordinated. Daniel watched from the command bridge, his hands gripping the controls, mind racing. Every instinct told him to anticipate, to predict, to exploit weaknesses. The battle began with a roar of energy and fire. Varelian ships engaged the invaders, but the initial assault was overwhelming. Daniel called for rapid redeployments, directing ships to flank the enemy and draw fire away from vulnerable areas. He coordinated with Lysera, whose presence boosted the confidence of the Varelian forces. Together, they became a single force, blending human ingenuity with alien technology. Hours passed in a blur of tactics, explosions, and narrow escapes. Daniel could see the determination of the Varelians, their courage shining even under fire. His human perspective offered them solutions they had not considered, and slowly, the tide began to turn. The invaders faltered, their formations breaking. Under the unexpected maneuvers, at one critical moment, Daniel realized a command ship was attempting to bypass their defenses to strike the capital directly. He coordinated a risky intercept, directing smaller ships to block the path while he and Lysera guided a strike team to disable the ship's engines. The plan worked. The command ship was neutralized, and the invaders' fleet began to retreat. Disorganized and vulnerable, the victory was not without cost. Several Varelian ships were lost, and casualties weighed heavily on Daniel's mind. Yet the relief and elation among the surviving forces were undeniable. He had not only survived, but had helped save a civilization from annihilation. In the aftermath, the Empress called Daniel and Lysera to the throne room. The court waited silently as she regarded them both. "Lieutenant Reeves," she said, her voice measured but softer than before, "you have proven your worth, not just in courage, but in wisdom. You have saved my people when all seemed lost." Perhaps the prophecy was not as foolish as some believed. Lysera stepped forward, smiling faintly. "You did not just follow instructions. You led. You inspired. That is what the Protector would have done." Daniel felt a mixture of relief and humility. He had acted not because he believed in destiny, but because he believed in human ingenuity, in courage, and in the strength of collaboration. Yet the realization that he had fulfilled a role centuries in the making, that history had somehow chosen him, was overwhelming. The Empress stood, walking toward him. She extended a hand, a rare gesture of trust and respect. "Lieutenant Reeves, you are welcome here whenever you choose. The Varelians will remember your deeds, and so will I." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He had arrived as a stranger, observed as a curiosity, and tested as a possible threat. Now he had earned their respect, not as a legend, but as a human who refused to yield. As he left the throne room with Lysera, Daniel felt the enormity of what had just happened. The enemy fleet had retreated, the Varelians were safe, and yet he knew the journey was not over. Questions about his identity, about the Protector, and about the future of this alliance remained. But for the first time he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had faced the impossible before, so they had adapted, fought, and survived. And now, Daniel Reeves had proven that even in a galaxy of wonders, humans could make a difference, could rise to challenges beyond comprehension, could become heroes in ways even history could not predict. That night, as he stood on the balcony, overlooking the Varelian capital, the stars stretched endlessly above him. The city below shimmered with life, rebuilt stronger and safer than before. Princess Lysera joined him silently, her presence a reminder that courage and determination could bridge even the vastest differences. "We did it," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. It will always be challenges. There will always be threats. Humans, Varelians, together we can face them." She looked at him, a mixture of admiration and quiet understanding in her eyes. "Then let history remember not just the Protector, but those who refused to quit, who acted when it mattered most." Daniel smiled faintly, feeling the truth of her words. History had chosen him, perhaps, but it was his actions, his courage, and his choices that had defined this moment. The legacy of humanity, their ingenuity and resilience, had once again proved that even in the vast, unknown reaches of the galaxy, humans could make a difference. And for Daniel Reeves, the stars were no longer cold and distant. They were a reminder that courage, wisdom, and determination could shine brighter than any sun, shaping the future in ways no prophecy alone could predict. The aftermath of the battle left the Varelian capital quiet but tense. The streets were alive with activity, yet there was a palpable sense of relief and gratitude. Citizens whispered of the human who had helped defend their world, of the strategies that had turned the tide of war, and of the courage that had saved countless lives. Daniel Reeves walked through the halls of the palace with Princess Lysera by his side, both of them aware that their journey together had changed not only the present but also the course of history. The Empress had summoned him once more. This time her expression held something Daniel had not seen before, trace of warmth beneath the sternness. An acknowledgement of respect earned through action rather than title. She rose as he entered. "Lieutenant Reeves," she said, her voice steady but softer than before. "You have faced trials that few could endure. You have shown not only courage but wisdom, and for that, the Varelians owe you a debt we cannot easily repay. But there is more to this story than the battle alone." Daniel listened intently as she continued. "The Protector you resemble was not merely a soldier. He embodied the qualities we value most: compassion, bravery, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. His deeds have been preserved in our archives, and the legacy has waited across centuries for the right moment to return. You are that moment." He felt a mix of awe and unease. I do not fully understand. I am human. I cannot claim to be the same as him. I did what I could with what I knew." The Empress nodded. "And that is precisely why you are worthy. The legacy is not about who you were in the past, but what you choose to do now. You have acted in the spirit of the Protector, and that is enough. History does not demand perfection. It demands courage, wisdom, and action. You have given all." Princess Lysera stepped forward, her eyes bright with emotion. "Mother, he has proven himself. Not because he looks like the Protector, but because he has shown the heart and mind of a true leader. He has inspired my people and united us in a way that has never been done before. Daniel felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing he had made a difference. The recognition was not about glory or titles, it was about impact. It's about actions that mattered. The Empress gestured toward the balcony overlooking the city. Step outside. The people of Varelia wish to see the one who has stood with them. As Daniel and Lysera emerged onto the balcony, the sight that greeted him was overwhelming. Thousands of Varelians filled the streets below, their faces turned upward, eyes shining with gratitude and hope. Some held banners, others raised their hands in salute. They were celebrating not just a victory, but the courage of a human who had chosen to act when it mattered most. Daniel lifted his hand in acknowledgement. He felt a strange mixture of humility and pride. It was not about recognition, it was about connection. Humanity had reached into the stars and found allies, friends, and a civilization that valued courage, intelligence, and heart. After the celebration, Daniel was invited to a private audience with Princess Lysera. They walked along the quiet corridors of the palace, now filled with the subtle glow of evening lights. "You were amazing today," Lysera said quietly. "You didn't just help fight the invaders, you inspired my people and me." "I only did what I thought was right. I had help from you too. You taught me so much about your people, about your world. Without you, I would have been lost." Lysera smiled, a faint curve of lips that carried both relief and admiration. "You have more than just courage, Daniel. You have a mind that can adapt, a heart that can care, and a presence that can lead. That is why history recognized you." Daniel looked out at the horizon, the alien cities shimmering in the soft light. "I still don't understand fully why I look like the Protector or why I was brought here, but maybe I don't need to. What matters is what we do now, not what came before." Lysera nodded. "Yes, and now we face the future together. Your people, my people, we can build something stronger than before. Humans and Varelians, united. That is a legacy worth carrying forward." In the days that followed, Daniel worked closely with the Varelian leaders. He helped establish new defense protocols, shared strategies to strengthen their fleets, and trained officers in ways that blended human ingenuity with Varelian precision. Every action he took reinforced a simple truth: courage, intelligence, and determination could bridge worlds. At night, Daniel often found himself on the balcony, staring at the stars. They were the same stars he had gazed at from Earth, but now they carried a different meaning. They were no longer distant and cold. They were full of possibility. Somewhere out there, other civilizations waited. Challenges awaited. But humans had proven that they could rise, adapt, and protect not only themselves, but others as well. Princess Lysera joined him one evening, her gaze following his to the heavens. "Do you ever wonder if the Protector really chose you, or if it was chance?" Daniel thought for a moment. Maybe it was chance. Or maybe the universe has a way of recognizing the right person when it matters most. I don't know. But I do. Know that we all have a choice to act or to hesitate. And today, we acted. She smiled, a mixture of admiration and hope. "Then let's make sure that every choice we make from now on continues to matter. Not just for us, but for everyone who follows." As the weeks passed, Daniel became a symbol of unity between humans and Varelians. His presence reassured the people, inspired leaders, and strengthened bonds that had existed only in tentative alliances before. Lysera's trust in him deepened, and together, they planned initiatives to share knowledge, technology, culture between their species. One morning, the Empress summoned Daniel for a final meeting before his departure back to the human fleet. She regarded him with an expression that conveyed both authority and gratitude. "Lieutenant Reeves, your actions have not only saved my people, but reshaped our understanding of humanity. You have bridged the gap between worlds and proven that courage and intelligence are not limited to one species. Know that you will always be welcome here. Know that your legacy, our shared legacy, will endure." Daniel bowed respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will carry this experience back to my people, and I will continue to act with the same courage and care you have recognized here. He departed the palace, leaving behind a civilization that now viewed humans not as strangers, but as allies and friends. Princess Lysera walked beside him one last time before he boarded the shuttle. Take care, Daniel, she said softly. And remember, history is not just about what has happened, it's about what we do next. He nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. The stars stretched endlessly before him, but they were no longer intimidating. They were full of possibilities, full of future adventures and discoveries. Humanity had made its mark, and he had played a part in something far greater than himself. As the shuttle lifted off, Daniel looked back at Varelia, shimmering below, alive and vibrant. He understood now that courage, wisdom, and action could define more than a single life. They could shape civilizations. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, that legacy would continue. Carried by humans who dared to reach beyond the stars, the galaxy was vast, the future uncertain. But Lieutenant Daniel Reeves felt ready. He had faced the unknown, embraced it, and emerged not just as a witness to history, but as a part of it. And in that knowledge, he found peace, purpose, and a quiet exhilaration for the journey that lay ahead. The stars sparkled above, and humanity's place among them had never felt clearer.